Welcome everyone to our daily Forex market analysis call. This is in preparation for trading on September 14, 2017. Just a quick disclaimer before we get started. This is for educational purposes only. Trading is a risky business, so please be careful with your money. Okay, so we'll start off as usual by taking a look at our Forex factory calendar here. So in terms of the news that came out, we saw that after the positive inflation data yesterday, today the average earnings index came in negative. So with the employment numbers, average earnings are very important as well. So if the wage is not going up, but the employment is steady, that is actually not as positive. We do want to see the wages go up as well. So as a result of this, British pound fell. And then we also saw US dollar strength come into the market today. So even though this data was negative, slower than expected, but in spite of that, we saw US dollar strength come in. And part of the reason for that was because President Trump talked about cutting taxes again today. So one of the big thing that the market viewed as positive for Donald Trump was that he had talked about doing tax reform. So when the tax reform, especially for businesses, so when there are tax reforms for businesses, basically businesses have more money in their hand, which they can then go spend on growing more business, growing more revenue, or pay more dividends to their shareholders. So as a result of that, stock market sees that as positive, and then more people want to invest in the country, so the currency goes up as well. So that's kind of where the strength is coming from, that's driving. So it's market sentiment that's driving the US dollar at this moment. So that's what we are seeing currently. So we did have a short position, and we're going to take another short position today as a result of that. So it'll be basically a sentiment play based on what's being said in the media from President Trump. So see if we can kind of write that. Coming up here, we have Australian dollar employment numbers coming out and Chinese employment numbers coming out. So Australian dollar is probably not a good trade at the moment, just because this could cause news could change things in the market. So we'll keep that in mind. Tomorrow, a very, very important day from all aspects here. Swiss franc, we have monetary policy assessment. So anytime there are central banks coming out, that becomes a volatile day. So Swiss National Bank will be out. Then we have Bank of England with their bank rate votes, as well as monetary policy summary and the bank rate. So right now, and not expecting an interest rate hike, but the CPI number that came out positive, market had started thinking about that, but for now, so we're not expecting one right now. Market will just be looking to see whether the central bank is hawkish or not. So any positive comments out of the central banks will be considered positive, and we could see British pound go back up on the back of that if the Bank of England does sort of line things up that way. So that's what we need to keep in mind. And then we have inflation data out of the US, as well as employment numbers out of the US. So that will be important for the US dollar tomorrow. So let's go on to the charts here. So starting off here, so this is the trade that I want us to get into. I would like to see a bit of a retracement first. Sorry, just give me 1 second, please. Oh, sorry about that. Okay, so this is what we're looking at. We had a big push to the downside in euro, and part of the reason driving this push is actually, again, central bank. So we have had central banks, basically a lot of people out of ECB and Eurozone, basically we were talking about, so one, they were talking about the what is it, the asset purchase program. Basically, they didn't come out with that just yet. And then we also had even German, I think it was finance minister or somebody was saying that if somebody wants to join the euro, they should think twice about it or something like. So there were some just basically negative comments that were coming out of the eurozone, so that were not considered. So I can't find them here, but that's just from fundamental perspective, that is not good for euro. And with the US dollar strength coming in, that gives it a excuse me, a bearish bias. So this is what we had talked about. Price came down, it pushed back up into this area, and now we have had a very solid close for the day. So we're looking for a further bearish move to the downside. In terms of the target, couple of targets here. The first one is a 1.1820 level, and following that, it will be 1.1780-ish level. So those will be the two targets to the downside. And pullback, ideally, I would like to see a pullback. Well, first will be this one, 1.1900 level, or slightly higher. So 1900 level will be the first pullback. Ideally, it would be nice to get a pullback into 1.1920-ish area, but that may not happen. So we have to kind of play it by the ears. So this one here, this 1920, which is kind of the pivot point level, approximately the pivot slightly higher. So that would be an ideal one, but 1900, 1.1900, that's what I will look out for. See if we can get a bit of a push in here. We may have to keep our stop a little bit wider because it could push into this in the London session, not just yet. So that's something to watch out for. But our target, we will be targeting 1820, and then second target would be 1.1780. So those are the two targets to the downside. But overall, euro dollar is bearish at the moment. Pound US dollar, pound dollar is also bearish. We did have successful trade in this. Now, the only concern with the pound dollar is that we have Bank of England tomorrow. As a result of that, this is a wild card, so it could go either way based on how Bank of England poses their monetary policy statement. So if they're bullish on the economy, if they say that, well, economy is really doing really well, the jobs, employment numbers are looking good, inflation is going up, so we're moving in the right direction, and they kind of give that type of tone to their speech, that will be positive for British pound, because then they'll be looking for Bank of England to start talking about an interest rate hike at some point, sooner rather than later. I don't think they're in a place to do that just yet because of all the Brexit concerns, because the negotiations, they haven't really, done much in terms of coming to an agreement. However, the central bank cannot stay at the current interest rates forever, because economy is doing better. So that's kind of where it's we'll have to just see. It's a toss-up. So at this point, this is bearish. So just purely on technical basis, we're looking for a further move to the downside. So 1.3120 level will be the target to the downside for now. So the first target would be 1.3150, and then 1.3120 will be the second target to the downside. And in terms of the pullback here, pivot point is right there. That's a good level for potential pullback. So we may see a pullback into there, but overall looking for a move to the downside. Aussie dollar here, same thing, bearish close for the day. And now we're looking for a further move to the downside. In terms of our target. Now this one again, we don't have RBA, we have the employment numbers. So there's news coming out. So that could change things. If the news is positive, employment numbers are positive, that will push Aussie US dollar up. But overall, US dollar is strong, and purely based on technicals, this looks bearish. So we're looking for a further move to the downside. In this case, this is quite close, 79.40. So we could potentially move lower into the 7,900 level. So the target to the downside would be 0.7900, And this is where we are in terms of the pullback. That looks like a good level for a pullback. Support resistance level, pivot point, that this is 80 level, 0.800, and then a drop. But if the numbers come out positive, we could see a push all the way up there. Not sure how long that will last, but overall, this is bearish as well. New Zealand dollar, a very strong bearish close, bearish engulfing candle. So we're looking for another move to the downside. Target is 0.7150-ish level. And in terms of a push up, that looks like a good level, 72.60-ish level. So right now it looks like it's just reacting at the pivot point level, but it could go higher into this level here. So New Zealand dollar is bearish as well. This is a good opportunity as well that we will look at. Dollar CAD. So this one we have. Okay. This one we have a neutral close for the day. So today, after the oil inventories, oil prices went up, and also US dollar is gaining strength at the moment, but we have seen a bit of a push up in terms of the Canadian dollar, dollar CAD here, and Canadian dollar just fundamentally is strong. So it's one of those things. So we did take a short in this one, and the reason was this, because price was at an important level. So with this one, it is a neutral close for the day, but we're looking for a further move to the downside here. And then we're looking for, basically the price to come back down. So this is a range at this moment. So for the last few days, price has stayed in this range. And we're just looking for basically price to come back down. So if the price does break up, so let's say US dollar becomes very strong and the price breaks to the upside, then we could see a push back up, and this becomes a target. Then 123.50-ish level will be the target to the upside. So the main level to watch here would be 122.20 level. And if we look closer here, so this is where we are. So this is where price was reacting, and now it's struggling with the pivot point. And if other things drop, so let's say euro US dollar drops, pound drops, Aussie drops, this is likely to go up then. So in the short term, we do have a bit of an uptrend going here. So that this is something we do need to keep in mind. The trade that we have about 30 pips in the trade, I think, at the moment. Yeah. So we're just going to close the trade out, take our 30 pips, because it hasn't managed to break this. If it does break, so our target is slightly lower here, but if it doesn't, it's at the 50 level here, so it's about another 17 pips. But if it doesn't manage to break, so I was expecting it to come down into this pivot level, but if it doesn't, right now, it's just better to take it out, take the 30 pips and just call it a day, look for a different opportunity, because this could go up because of US dollar strength. So that's the thing. But overall, it is neutral, just based on the daily candle close. And when something is neutral like this, it is easier for it to move in the direction of the overall trend, and overall trend here is bearish. So it's easier for it to move in that direction rather than changing directions. Okay, Euro Swiss. Euro Swiss bearish candle close for the day, so we're looking for a further move to the downside. It could pull back into this pivot point level, which kind of lines up, or slightly higher into 1.1480 level. But overall, it is at the top of the range here, bearish close for the day. So we're looking for price to move back lower. And the first target would be 1.1420 level. And then we're looking into this 1.1380 level to the downside. Pound Swiss, bearish pin bar for the British pound. So we're looking for a further move to the downside based on the technicals here. Target, this looks good, 1.2670-ish level, so about 80 level, and further down into 1.2650 level. So those will be the two targets to the downside. dollar Swiss. US dollar has been strong, so it's a bullish close for the day, and it has kind of broken this trend line. So we'll get rid of that. So right now we're looking for a further move to the upside, 96.97. So 0.9700 will be the target for that. Pound yen. Bearish close for the day, so we're looking for a further move to the downside here. This looks like a good target, 145.20. So that will be the target to the downside. Euro yen. Euro yen bearish close for the day as well. So we're looking for further weakness in this. The target here, the first target would be 130.75 and then 130.37. So that will be the target to the downside. So bearish on that. Aussie yen is bearish as well. Bearish pin bar here, looking for another move to the downside. So 87.80 level will be the first target. And then we could go all the way down to 87.50 level. So those will be the targets for Aussie yen. New Zealand yen looks bearish as well. And the next target would be 79.60, but could go all the way into this here. So this is a good level, 79.35. So that will be the target to the downside. Dollar yen, dollar has been strong. So we're looking for further move to the upside, and we are going to target 111.00. So basically the top of these pins here. So we could pull back here and then move up. So, well, with all of them, we're looking for pullbacks and then a further move to the upside. Euro pound here. Euro pound bearish pin bar, bearish close for the day. Looking for a further move to the downside. Target would be 89.30 right into these pins here. So that's that. Euro Aussie, again, range bound, looking for further move to the downside. It's as if it didn't even move. It's just been sideways for a while here. So we're just looking for price to come back down into 1.4838 level. So that's all I have. Any questions or comments? So I'm just going to keep an eye on this euro, and I just want it to pull back a little bit. So I may not send out a trade alert just yet, just because it'll make our stop quite big if we take a trade here. So hopefully before I go to bed, it pulls up here, because I would like to, or we may have to do a pending order higher. So let's see how this plays out. With our dollar CAD, it's still hanging in there. So I'm going to monitor this as well. We have no risk in the trade because stop is already moved. So I'm going to monitor it, and I will put something in the chat room and Twitter and all that as things kind of unfold. All right, so we'll call it a wrap. You guys have a wonderful evening. I will see you tomorrow.